Welcome to Grace and Truth Moments with G.S. Jackson.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for another Grace and Truth Moment. I just have one line for you. One line for you today that is going to be powerful in nature. And it says, He intends for us, talking about God, He intends for us to gain experience through obedience versus learn obedience through experiences. Let me say that one more time. He intends for us to gain experience through obedience versus learn obedience through experiences. I want to talk about for just a few minutes. I want to talk about experience through obedience. Experience through obedience. I think this is so essential to know because, I was hard-headed as a child. That's what we called it, hard-headed. I was stubborn. I was disobedient. Let's just be honest. And so for me, it took me to have to go through some experiences, negative in nature, in order for me to learn how to be obedient, in order for me to listen to instructions, in order for me to follow instructions. And sometimes I think we have a mechanism within us that thinks that we have to go through hardship and difficulty in order for us to learn how to obey. The truth of the matter is, it's just through observation. Observation is a good catalyst that leads you to obedience. Observing somebody else, observing something else can be such a great teacher, and it teaches us what not to do, and it also teaches us what to do just through observation. It's through the lives of others, through situations unrelated to us. It teaches us the benefit of listening and heeding to wise counsel, godly counsel. It teaches us how not to go through the same things that someone else has gone through or something else that someone's currently going through. But sometimes it's not that easy. We have to be convinced. We have to say that we have to understand. And this was my greatest understanding in my life that I embraced some years ago. You want to hear it? Here it is. I had to embrace that I was not invisible, and I had to embrace that I was not invincible. I had to recognize that I could be touched by it. I had to recognize that I could be seen and caught, that I wasn't invisible, I wasn't invincible. And when you come to that understanding, when you come to that humble place in your life to recognize that you are not invincible, when you recognize you're not invisible, that you too can be subject to going through what I used to call it and still call it unnecessary calamity, but I really called it unnecessary hell. There is some unnecessary hell that we put ourselves through. It's unnecessary. It's not warfare. It's not the devil. It's not anybody. It's not your boss. It's not your family. It's not your spouse. It's not your children. There's some things that we put on ourselves because we really didn't listen when we should have listened. And so now what it's called it's called consequence. It's called reaping what we've sown. So I want you to understand that listening is beneficial. Heeding the first time is beneficial. And God is so good, and He's so gracious, and He's so merciful. Even though He knows that we didn't listen, even though He knows that there were red flags and warning signs that were released all over, and we still didn't listen, He's gracious still, plenteous in mercy, plenteous in grace to pull us out of things and pull us out of holes that we dug for ourselves. Yes, He is. He is. But that still doesn't negate the fact that even though God does pull us out in time and in season, it still does not take away the fact that we have to listen and we have to heed instruction, listen to wise counsel, walk according to godly counsel. Psalm 1 says, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor are seated in the seat of the scornful. We have to learn how to listen to the right people. And we have to learn that we cannot delay in listening to the instructions that are coming along. Let me read it to you again. God intends for us to gain experience through obedience versus learn obedience through experiences. I would rather mature and grow and learn and be transformed by obedience and not gain the wisdom through whoopings, as we call it, whippings, if you will. I'd rather gain the wisdom through obedience. Yep, it's not going to make sense. Some things are not going to make sense. It's not going to add up. But if we can learn how to listen and follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, and that leading of the Holy Spirit is between you and him and in your relationship with him. But that leading of the Holy Spirit does also come through the voices, credible voices of others that he grants and gives and graces wisdom, instruction, direction, and protection for your soul. So I'm telling you, you don't have to go through experiences in order to be obedient. You can gain experience through obedience and not go through experiences in order for you to finally obey. He loves you and he's there for you. He's plenteous. Get that. He's plenteous. He's rich in mercy, rich in grace. And as a father, he is there for us to pick us up out of the miry clay and place us on a rock to stay, to place us on firm foundation. But again, it does not take away the responsibility of us to listen and to follow his instructions. Experience through obedience versus finally obeying because of the diverse experiences I've gone through. There's grace for you to obey, to give you experience, to be able to help somebody else and letting them know how to go through, how to come out, and how to do better. And I'm thankful that I've gained experience, not through always obeying, but through experiences that pushed me to obedience. The Bible tells us that Jesus, Hebrews, that though he was a son, yet learned he obedience through the things that he suffered. And I'm thankful that I learned obedience through things that I suffered, things that I allowed to happen, things that came my way because I wasn't initially obedient. And I'm telling you, he'll see you through. And I'm telling you, there's grace to obey and there's grace to bounce back. Listen, obey, and watch God. Be blessed.
This has been your Grace and Truth Moment.